Hey, welcome everyone to the first ever Cymbal Swap podcast. I'm Justin Nettie, and this is
James Solo.
we're the founders of Cymbal Swap, plus one that is not here today, Taylor Collins, and we wish he was here. But anyway, we're gonna kick it off. We're just gonna introduce ourselves, kind of tell you a little bit about our history, our background, and we started drumming at a young age and kept with it all these years. So for me, it's been almost 30 years.
The cool thing is Justin's dad is a on-stage audio guy who was touring with some big acts, and so we were exposed to bands and music at a young age. And he would always get us gear and stuff like picks and drumsticks, and just that combined with all his great musical collection and our family's like love of music, all of a sudden we got drum pads and different guitars and all this musical instruments. And yeah, that got us going at a really young age, which is cool. And I remember Justin and I like collaborating on like songs and stuff when we were just little. I mean, God, we must have been 7 or 8.
After that, James kind of graduated to playing in a punk rock band, and like that was a big inspiration for me, learning drums and watching his band play, in which our other founder Taylor Collins was a part of that band. And so growing up listening to those bands, going to the band practices, watching the recordings, I think we kind of fed off of each other a little bit there. And
Yeah, and Justin ended up with a pretty sweet drum set from Harold Jones and some awesome cymbals. And, those are the first professional level cymbals we kind of got our hands on. And you had some bands too, when you were just kind of coming
yeah,
up through and learning how to play and stuff. So, but, we're in each other's basements, always messing around with drums and jamming out and stuff. Just great memories, right? So you got to start somewhere.
throughout the years, drums have always been a constant. Obviously, James has a lot of amazing drums in the background there. He's been collecting for years. I didn't have quite an extensive collection. And so that's kind of where the history of Cymbal Swap started. I myself was looking for a new cymbal setup. I had the same cymbals for 20 something years and wanted, a new sound. James gave me a set of Zildjian Ks and K
Big customs.
customs.
Yep. Those old cymbals that you had were cool. They were just heavier. And, at that time, you're playing indie rock and you just needed some lighter, darker cymbals. And it was just right. I had, at that time, I started to have a pretty good collection of cymbals. Um,
And you
and
still do. You have a good collection.
yeah, it keeps getting better. It's never going to get any smaller. That's how that works. I
Yeah,
keep getting them. I don't get rid of them. So very rarely,
right.
anyways. Drums are beautiful and drums are awesome. Cymbals are like, to me, like works of art. Not to say drums aren't, but not to get off topic, but like cymbals, like it's one unit. It's this here, an old K from Turkey. Some guy like made this. I mean, it's a work of art, man. There's just no
Yeah.
disputing it, and it's pretty
And they're
awesome.
all unique. And I think when you talk about the uniqueness of cymbals, there's so many options out there, right? So I ended up spending a couple thousand trying to find that perfect sound, what that new sound that I was searching for. And unfortunately, like I was still searching and searching. And I thought to myself, I wish there was a place that I could go online that I could, rent a couple cymbals at a time, or, rent some different cymbals and try out things that maybe I wouldn't have known about or didn't have access to. Maybe even some higher end cymbals that I would never, just buy outright. And then boom, one day it clicked. And, immediately I called you up and said, I just thought of this. It was the 4th of July, 2021. And I did the research and couldn't find anyone doing it. So I said, we talk about cymbals pretty much every week, if
Yeah,
not every day,
yep.
talk about drumming and cymbals. And I thought, well, why not follow that passion and get this started? So it was pretty easy to think up, but creating a company comes with a lot of other responsibilities, of course.
It's funny because like back in the day, you'd have all these, at the time I thought crazy ideas, right? All these visions. You're I would call you like a visionary. I mean, to some extent, and I would always kind of shoot them down when we were younger for whatever reason, and you would always prove me wrong. And then I remember telling you, I'm like, I'll never do that again to you. You know, like what a great lesson you taught me when I was younger. Because I was just like, come on, what are you doing? You need to work. Man. You know, you're like, no, I'm doing what I want to do. And it inspired me, you know. And so like anyone watching this, it's a great message and a great lesson to like follow your dreams and don't be scared and do what you love. Like, and then you get to be surrounded by stuff you love with people
Yeah.
you love, and it's a beautiful thing, you know, not to get too mushy, but to be able to live out your passion and talk about the things you're into is pretty fun, that's for sure.
Yeah. And so far with Cymbal Swap, we've got to help a lot of awesome drummers and make some really great connections. It's been really fun, really rewarding. And, we're just continually growing and adding more cymbals and trying to help as many people as we can.
Yeah,
So
totally.
yeah, I mean the service is growing, and I think we have a lot of ideas as lifelong drummers of what drummers want and how we can help them. Obviously, giving access to a lot of great cymbals, hand-picked cymbals. Everything in our collection, we check out first. Make sure it's in great condition, that everything is, no cracks, no flea bites, no keyholing. We try to review as many cymbals as we can. We really love working with indie cymbalsmiths because, you know, they're the artisans behind all this. And so we love connecting with indie cymbalsmiths, seeing how we can help them get their cymbals to market, get more drummers familiar with their brands and what they have to offer. And so far, what I've seen is just like incredible works of art.
I'm so surprised with the quality coming out from these indie guys, and I'm not surprised about their passion, and I shouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised about the quality, but some of it just blows me away. And these guys are just great great guys, and the international community, you know, that's what's so cool. It's like an international community of these great people that are passionate and they're artists in many ways, more ways than one. Something I don't want to forget to mention too is like the cool thing about, I think, about Cymbal Swap, aside from, you know, we're all drummers and musicians. Taylor plays bass and he wrote a lot of the music and sang in the bands we were in. Is that like drumming was always plan A for all of us, and like most people with their careers, like we had to do plan B because, you know, of course I was going to be a touring drummer, you know, that was what it was all about. At the end of the day, my profession is in sales. Justin's degree and his profession is in like videography, audio, and Taylor is in web design and creation on a professional level, and we're all like, you know, in high tier professional levels with all that. So it's like each of our backgrounds professionally also lends almost a perfect fitting puzzle pieces to the jigsaw puzzle, which is Cymbal Swap. That, you know, where we're chasing our dreams about what we love. Our professional backgrounds are also more or less perfectly suited to be a strong organization, which is really cool. And when it all happened, it all just seriously, it just sort of coincidentally worked out that way. It's kind of crazy.
It just fit all together. I think we spent a year and a half getting inventory and hand picking cymbals from all over, but
And building the site and all the business plans and business model and all everything that goes into it. Yeah, you know, took some time for sure.
there's a lot that goes into it. But all that aside, you know, we're all about helping drummers and cymbal makers as well. So I think there's a lot of drummers out there that don't have access to high quality music stores locally. So maybe they don't have that selection where they can actually see it in person. I mean, there's tons of great shops online. You can get great stuff online.
Yeah.
But you buy something and you might not like it, and it may be hard to return it, or they take a restocking fee. You have to ship it back, and or you decide, hey, now I'm going to try to sell it on my own on eBay or Reverb,
And you're going to take a
and
loss for sure.
yeah, you're going to take a loss if it's something specific that maybe you wanted, may not be super popular. But I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to help out that drummer that maybe they're not sure what they want, or maybe they are sure what they want, but they can't find it, or they don't know how to get that cymbal. So what we can do is we can help you pick out a cymbal if you don't know what you want, or we can help you find a cymbal that's maybe hard to get, or have one of our partners that are cymbalsmiths, help design one for you or modify one for you. At the end of the day, though, we're here like kind of as a resource too for the drumming community. And I think that's one thing we're going to hope to continually build is just a community where we can help drummers, we can help cymbal makers as well.
Yeah, we want to have relationships with the cymbal community and the cymbal smiths. Like I know just by talking to you, there's been plenty of times where like somebody had like that's a good customer had to have a specific cymbal and you sourced it for them and made it available and sent it right out to them. That's
Yeah.
to me that's crazy. I mean, as a younger guy or say I'm a professional, I'm touring. If I could have that resource, to me that's invaluable. The other thing is like
Yeah.
I've done this myself. Like even if you have headphones on and hear the exact cymbal you're going to get, I think that's cool. Not knocking that. The thing is, once you put that on the stand on this kit and play it, it's not the same as just hearing somebody else hit it. Once it's in your
Yeah.
spot or in your rehearsal spot or in a studio or on and or on your kit, reverberating with everything and you playing it, you might not really like it. And at the end of the day, having your own personal time on your time schedule in and around your stuff is invaluable. And so to be able to basically just try out a cymbal and send it back, and if you love it, just keep it is crazy. And I just remember when I was young, like the first cymbal I ever purchased, I got some sitting here. The first one I ever purchased was a Zildjian Ping Ride. This is it right here. I purchased this with my first ever like professional Zildjian cymbal. I had some like scimitars and some Sabian B8s that I got with my first kit, but I always wanted a real Zildjian. So I went out and bought this for $280, and my mom drove me to the store. And like this thing, Ping Ride, Ping sounded cool, and of course Zildjian, I had to have a Zildjian. The thing is, I remember seeing K's there, and like I didn't even know that K's were Zildjians back then. If I would have known K's were Zildjians and tapped on that, maybe that's what I would have got. But I ended up with this heavy honking thing, which as a newer drummer, this thing opens up like crazy. So it's just like really loud. And then when we recorded, everything was so bashy and loud. And I'm like, I don't know if I like this thing. And it took me a long time to learn how to play it. And even now to this day, like the only reason I have it is because it was my first cymbal ever. I don't really know. I don't use it very often. It's cool. I'm glad I have it, right? Just because I have a lot of cymbals now. But
Yeah.
I just think that if I was able to get it through Cymbal Swap back then, for a week or a couple weeks and mess with it, and I didn't love it, and I could just send it back and talk to somebody and be like, well, this is a little heavy. Maybe I want something a little bit more responsive or that doesn't blow up when I whack it. And you could just talk to somebody and say, well, try a K custom. Maybe that would work, or a regular K, or
Yeah.
try a medium A or something, and then try a couple more and then finally settle on one that you love and buy it. At the end of the day, it's a great experience of learning too.
And sometimes you just don't know. I mean, we've compared cymbals that are the exact same cymbal. They're maybe a little bit lighter or heavier, and they sound different. And they're the exact same cymbal from the exact same year. So it's crazy how different it is. It's different in every environment, whether it's with your band in your rehearsal studio or you're playing live shows and you want something that works in a specific space, you can really try it out.
Not to mention when you get to the next level and say you go into the studio and you want different sounds aside from what your bass setup is. Now you have a palette of different sounds that, with a couple different cymbals that could really enhance a recording. So
Yeah, and a lot of professional drummers, they roll into recording studios with different cymbals and they want different sounds for different feelings of different songs. Most, younger drummers that are recording, they roll in with the cymbals that they have and that's it. They don't change them out the entire session. So if you just want cymbals just for the weekend or just for that recording session, you don't have to buy a whole set now. You could just rent it for that specific occasion.
yeah, we're lucky that we at our age now we've played so many different cymbals and you kind of know and you're after it's kind of it's kind of like wine. After you've had a Pinot Noir enough times, you know what a Pinot Noir tastes like, or a Cabernet or a Merlot, right? Well, after you played enough, you know what a K custom ride sounds like, a 20 or 22, even though the different weights within that sound different, but in general you know what an A sounds like. You know what a Sabian AA or HHX sound like, depending on the model. But until you've had exposure to that, you don't. And so you can't just in your mind envision what's going to sound great in the studio for that song, or really what you even want as your bass setup, right? So, you know, you start with Cymbal Swap. You can gain that knowledge relatively quickly, depending on how long you're going to want to keep them around for. And you enjoy Cymbal Swap for a year or two, and you could really gain some massive knowledge. Probably the same amount of knowledge that took us decades to gain, you could probably gain in a couple of years or less. Which is another reason why I think this is such a cool idea, just for knowledge.
Yeah. One of our first customers, his name is John. He is actually local to the Dallas area. So he did come to me. He's a friend of mine. So he said, he's looking for a ride cymbal. He had a Meinl sand ride and he had been wanting this one cymbal for a really long time. And great cymbal, but when he got it into his space, he didn't like it. It was too loud for his setup. So he said, I want to try out some things. He tried 10 different cymbals from many different brands. He tried Zildjian, he tried uh, Sabian, he tried Paiste, ending on a Constantine, which is made in Turkey by a cymbalsmith out there. And it's not something that he even heard of before. So he had no idea. I said, why don't you try this one out? See how you like it. It was a 22-inch thin relax ride. And sounds awesome. It's a thin kind of hybrid ride cymbal, but um, he was really surprised. He had never heard of the brand, tried all the popular brands, um, and it landed on that. But had he not had the opportunity, who knows what he would have ended up on.
Sometimes you could end up with a ride you don't necessarily love, just because you haven't found one that you love yet, and you're like, well, this is as close as I'm going to get, and I like it. I think I like it a lot, until until you like have the resource and opportunity to dig in, and then you could find a ride that you love and you like 10 times better than the one that you liked and thought was like the one. I mean, I'm a prime example of that, man. Remember, Justin, I was telling you about here. I hate to keep pulling out rides. Never mind. I love to keep pulling out, but
That's
I
what
was
we
telling you
do. We
about
talk
this
about
one.
rides.
Yeah, custom dark complex ride 21. Like I'm just
Mhm.
like in love with this ride. You could see the cluster hammering. You could see all the hammering up into through the bell and stuff. And this is just like a Paul Francis like zombie cymbal. And I was just like, I was like, I don't want to play anything else. This thing in the light just looks stupid right now. But I'm like, I don't really want to play anything else. And now I've been, and that was over there on the DW when I was just kind of like playing like everything from indie to jazz. But now I've been on this thing on this old WFL, and it's like calf skin and stuff. And now I've got, well, thanks to Cymbal Swap, I got a Constantinople bouncer at 22, and it's like it's set up right in the main crash position. And I'm like, this thing is so badass. It's kind of similar because it's got the clusters, but it's got that
Yeah.
old school pin lathing, and it's washy. This one's a little more controlled than that one, but I'm playing an old jazz kit, you know. So I thought I was where I always wanted to be, and then I got that, you know. And it's just like, I don't think I'll probably ever settle on one ride, but it's crazy how you think you love something so much, and then you get something else and you love it like almost a little bit more, you know.
Yeah. I've been really surprised with some of the brands I've never even heard of. We have an indie cymbal-smith from Warsaw, Poland, Philip Majeski, and I was just like blown away by his solid work. And I would have never heard or bought a cymbal from Poland. I actually ordered it from Warsaw, Poland, and I don't know. I feel like a lot of drummers, if they don't know the brand, they've never heard of it, they're just not gonna try it. They're gonna stick with the popular brands that they've heard of. But so many great artists out there making amazing cymbals. So
I guess one way to put it is like we're kind of taking the risk for the drumming community, right? We bring in the cymbal, you know, we're the ones taking the risk with the upfront expense, and the drumming community gets to try it out and see if they love it, you know. I feel like
yeah,
you did that one for all the right reasons after everything going on in Ukraine, and you know how Philip was donating his profit to Ukraine, which was so cool. And I think that's kind of what maybe inspired you.
yeah, I saw he was, donating 100% of the sales of that cymbal to Ukrainian relief, and I said, "That's a no-brainer. I'm gonna do it." And I ended up buying more cymbals from him. He was a real pleasure to work with, and just really passionate about cymbal making. You could definitely see in his work. We did some cymbal reviews on that one cymbal. We've done cymbal reviews on the Paul Francis Cymbal Craftsman ride. Um, and we're gonna just, if you want us to try your cymbal too, we'd love to try it out. Send it our way.
Yeah, that's for sure. We definitely want to be more involved in partnering with, as you said, the indie guys, and any indie guys out there that think they make a great product want to send it to us to put it in the queue and for us to review it and start a partnership. Of course, we're all in.
Also, the education side, there's a lot of great content out there, and we want to help put put out great content as far as reviews and education. But we're also partnering with people like Dave Collingwood from Collingwood Cymbals, and he has a really great educational series for indie cymbal makers. So I'm learning myself. I'm trying to start learning hammering techniques and lathing and from Dave's classes, and I think they're really helpful in that way. So we love partnering with other cymbal makers and other educators.
I'm gonna wait for you to learn how to make cymbals, and then I'm just gonna have you teach me, and I'm just gonna keep drumming because in all
Yeah,
my free time, I just want to play drums. But I'll tell you what, I of course want to make cymbals, but to me, it's just like whew, there's a lot there. Those guys really, I mean, there's a lot going on, and those guys. I don't like how that. Where do you start? You know, and obviously those guys know
you
what they're
gotta
doing,
start
and
somewhere.
well, that's why I'm so excited to meet these guys. Like we're going out to Chicago soon, and that's like a dream come true to meet these guys. It's like some people like want to go to a sports game and meet like. Now, don't get me wrong. I'd like to meet a couple different Cleveland Browns for sure, but more importantly than that, I'd like to meet these guys. Like they're like superstars to us, you know. Like It's awesome.
Yeah, we'll be at the Chicago Drum Show this May, 2023. There's an indie cymbal making forum, I guess, with 8 different cymbal makers from around the globe will be there. So Dave Collingwood, Timothy Roberts, Paul Francis, to name a few. They'll all be there. Nikki Moon.
See, told you, superstars.
Yeah, superstars. These guys have been doing it forever and they make really great cymbals. So I'd like to learn as much as I can. I'll of course throw my cymbals on Cymbal Swap once they're done. But yeah, there's so much to learn in that regard. It's a craft, and they spend hours and hours just perfecting these cymbals. You know, making them by hand. They're the future cymbal makers. So I definitely think people need to keep learning this craft that's been what going on for centuries now.
Centuries for sure. It's kind of stunning to think about. Zildjian's been around this year for 400 years, and obviously people were making cymbals before that. The thing I'm really proud of is how America has, in North America, has really like made cymbals modern by collaborations with artists, right? That's the Zildjian story, and obviously there's a lot of other great cymbal makers, both large and small, that have continued that tradition. But working with musicians to basically create the different types of cymbals and the different sounds, that suited their needs. And so we're sort of an extension of that, right? So we're working with all these great cymbal makers and companies to be a resource to all the great musicians by helping them find what they want, right? So it just makes it a more collaborative, I want to say easier, but convenient, more educational piece. It just brings relationships into the mix. As after coming out of COVID and these poor brick and mortar places, and some of them are so great. I mean, some of these brick and mortar places and online stores that are so fabulous, and I always say to support them.
Yeah.
We're never going to knock them. We love them. Just to
Oh
give an
yeah, definitely.
educational piece and another element to musicians out there, it just kind of more rounds out the big picture and the availability out there for players.
That's another thing. We're not out here necessarily trying to compete with your local drum shop. There's nothing like
No way.
going to your local drum shop and there's community there. There's
Yeah.
definitely roots in that drum shop. But you may want to try a cymbal with us and then buy it at buy it from your local drum shop. That's cool.
Totally cool.
But again, you may not have a badass drum shop like Badges or like near your house. So
Hmm.
there are people out there that they have to go to somewhere like Guitar Center. I always say support local business, small business.
We love independent drum shops, and to kind of like piggyback on what you're saying. So where I live, I've got a cool local music store. Um, More or less lots of guitars and stuff. Some cool drums. The owner's a drummer and he's a great guy. I buy a lot of stands and sometimes some drums and every now and then a cymbal or two off him. Then the next closest thing to me is like a Guitar Center, and I bring my kids there so they can play the electric drums. And so I know what's in there, and there's not much. The closest drum shop to me that I consider like a great drum shop is Dale's, and that's in Harrisburg, PA. Now I live in Western New York, south of Buffalo. That's a long drive. I'm gonna have to stay in Harrisburg overnight to go out there, um, and I will. And I love those guys, and we're Zildjian dealers, and I still buy cymbals off them. I'm gonna support those guys. I just ordered another Fort Town for my DW kit too from Reg at Dale's, and I highly recommend them. They're just awesome. So as you can tell, we got lots of love for the local drum shops, and we're always gonna. And at the end of
Yeah,
the day, like we got a lot of love for everyone. Do what makes you happy. If you're happy going to Guitar Center, go to Guitar Center. At the end of the day, though, like give us a try because I think we have a lot to offer.
we have over 20 brands of cymbals and growing. So I mean, we have a really good selection. The top brands, of course, Zildjian, Sabian, Paisti, Meinl, Istanbul. And then we have just a whole lot of other brands that you may not even heard of before. So, you know, I feel like we have something for everyone. We'll even buy cymbals from you. We have a link on our site. You can sell us your cymbal. So, and then of course, you buy a cymbal from us, you can always sell it back to us. So we inspect all the cymbals. I think that's one thing we take really good care of the cymbals as well. Like we make sure that when they go out, they're in great shape. We try to recommend the right cymbals.
Yeah, it makes it easier to do that when you've grown up your whole life around cymbals and drums, and it's what you care about and you love, and it's what your passion is, you know. One of the things we take the most pride in possession wise is our cymbal collection at Cymbal Swap. It's just it's a matter of pride, and like you said, the business model is not going to work. The people aren't going to like us if they end up with crummy gear. No one likes crummy gear.
Yeah. But anyway, we got a lot of great things in the future coming up. We're constantly updating the inventory. We're looking to add new services. The website's developing and getting better every day. We listen to our customers. So if there's something that you want, if there's a cymbal that you need or an idea that you have for us, we're very receptive and flexible, and we'd love to hear your feedback anytime.
Yeah, yeah. Communication is key, and we'd love to hear from anyone out there that wants to just bullshit with us or have some constructive criticism or whatever information you want to share. It's part of the relationship building with a community of musicians out there, and it's awesome. Community of
Yeah.
drummers, it's a great thing.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us on this very first Cymbal Swap podcast. We'll be doing more of these with special guests, different topics. This one, we just wanted to kind of lay out who we are and what we're doing. And, hopefully you come back and see us again.